What's going on, guys, and welcome to Hylian Alf Gaming. I'm your host, Alf, and did you know that I like Wind Waker? For some reason, I feel like I've only mentioned that a couple of times, so just in case you're new around here, yes, I love Wind Waker. To be fair, I might just love it because it was the first Zelda game I played and actually liked, but I still think it has something to be enjoyed for non-child gamers. Maybe you disagree, but I always find the way it's designed to be really fun and engaging when I go back and play it. I, however, am not the only one who played Wind Waker, for there are many others who like to criticize its design. Now, before I get into the meat of this video, of course everyone can have their own opinion. I obviously don't have the authority to tell people what they should and shouldn't like, so I don't want to see any of you rascals in the comments saying I think people always have to agree with me or something. I'm not even necessarily saying all of Wind Waker's design is great, there's just one specific part of it that I often see criticized for reasons I slightly disagree with. In fact, if you read the title of this video, it kind of brings into question some aspects of game design as a whole. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, let's take a look at the Wind Waker to figure out exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know, in the Wind Waker, there are roughly 5 traditional dungeons depending on how you count. And with the way the game is structured, you have to do those 5 dungeons in the same order every time you play. It's always Dragon Roost Cavern, then the Forbidden Woods, then the Tower of the Gods, then the Earth Temple, then the Wind Temple. Now, as with a lot of games, these dungeons have a reason for occurring in this exact order, that being that the story progresses along with these dungeons. You also get an item in each dungeon that's used to solve certain puzzles in the world, so to me it just makes sense that the dungeons are locked to a specific order. And from what I've seen, most people agree with me that the first few dungeons are justified in having a set order. Later in the game, however, namely with the Earth and Wind Temples, many people seem to get upset that you have to go to the Wind Temple first. Honestly, I can kind of see why. See, the only thing that happens at the end of each of those temples is an upgrade to the Master Sword, so it's not super crucial for the story to have one go before the other. There's also a fair bit of side questing you have to do to access either dungeon, so it can be annoying if you accidentally prepare to go to a dungeon that you can't enter yet. Aside from that though, the main reason I see people getting frustrated with the Wind Waker's forced linearity is that it breaks the game's feeling of openness and freedom. I must reiterate that it's okay for anybody to feel any way they want about a video game, but nonetheless, this argument just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Sure, Wind Waker is meant to feel open and explorative, but it's also the epic story of the hero saving the world. As the player, you still get to sail around wherever you want and check out all the cool optional islands, so what's the problem with having to do all the main dungeons in order? Yes, Wind Waker is a linear game, but are linear games bad just because they're linear? Or do people let the negative idea of linearity get in the way of them enjoying linear games?
But Alf, why are you even making this video? You said so yourself that anybody can feel however they want about games, so why are you telling people how you think games work if your opinion doesn't matter? How does that make any sense?
Well, Squidward, why does anybody make any video? Because it's fun to discuss things on the internet. I realize that people who don't like linear games just don't like linear games, and there's nothing I can say to change that, but I still think it's entertaining to explain my side. Now that my probably unsuccessful attempt to defend myself is concluded, to look at this linearity thing further, let's get some more examples of linear and non-linear games to see how they stack up in my opinion. First up, here's an interesting one, Pikmin. Now, I always say there are 2 types of people in this world, those who prefer Pikmin 2 and those who prefer Pikmin 3. Then there's a couple purists who prefer Pikmin 1, but they need to get over themselves. Anyway, I talked about this a pretty good amount in my Pikmin 3 review, but to recap, Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3 are both linear games at their core. They have non-linear elements, but their central goals all have one path you need to take to the end, if with a few diversions along the way. And like I said just a few seconds ago, different people prefer either Pikmin 2 or Pikmin 3, but I personally don't understand why anyone could prefer Pikmin 2, and here's why. In Pikmin 2, the linear path has no story pushing it along. You unlock the new Pikmin types, but that's the only reason you're able to progress. You get X Pikmin type to make it through Y barrier, and then that repeats until you get enough treasure to beat the game. The characters never do anything that isn't part of the gameplay, they rarely interact with each other, there's no rising action, no climax, no nothing. You progress through the game step by step, and then at the end you've accomplished the only goal you were ever given. And for the millionth time, if you love Pikmin 2, more power to you, but I just can't relate. Just look how Pikmin 3 is structured. The game's linear, you still unlock Pikmin types and break barriers and stuff to unlock new stages, but that progression is fueled by an awesome story. First, the Cosmic Drive Key breaks at the start of their mission, then they figure out they need to get the Cosmic Drive Key from Olimar, then they find Olimar but he takes their food, then Olimar isn't Olimar, then some crazy stuff happens, and so on and so on. You get the point I'm trying to make. Rather than there being one goal that stays constant from beginning to end, that goal evolves throughout the story. Everything that happens is still in hopes of completing the end goal, but the things that they have to do to reach that goal always change. But okay, I found a quote-unquote good linear game and a quote-unquote bad linear game, but what does any of that mean? Are linear games bad starts to lose validity as a question when you realize that most games are good or bad for other reasons than being or not being linear. I think it's safe to say that no, linear games aren't bad just because they're linear, but saying that doesn't really accomplish much. Of course linear games can be good, so perhaps a better question to ask is, are linear games worse than non-linear games? For the 1,000,001st time, I must say that this is all a matter of opinion, but I think so? From my experience, I tend to have a lot more fun playing non-linear games over linear ones. Like I said, I still love plenty of linear games, but I always find myself coming back to the non-linear experiences. Sure, I love playing through Mario 3D World and Wind Waker and Toy Story 3 for the DS, but I spend way more time messing around in games like Mario 64, Breath of the Wild, and the Tower Defense mode in Toy Story 3 for the DS. Okay, that last one isn't necessarily non-linear, but Toy Story 3 is a great game that deserves some more respect in the gaming community. I spent more time on that Tower Defense mode than I spent... Okay, sorry, back on topic now. Yes, I generally prefer non-linear games, and as we could see with the Wind Waker, it looks to me like a large percentage of people do too. I remember when Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey got announced, everyone was going crazy with excitement over the fact that those series were finally getting more non-linear installments. I think it's safe to say that I'm not alone in preferring non-linear games. So for those of you who skipped to the end of the video to see the answer of the question posed in the title, are linear games bad? No, not necessarily. Linearity is a perfectly good thing when implemented well, and I think it's important for people to enjoy a game's strong points rather than get super hung up on the fact that it's linear. However, do I and many other people generally prefer non-linear games to linear ones? Probably. Like I said, this video isn't super purposeful since anyone could be totally justified for disagreeing with me for any reason, but discussing is still fun. Remember to tell me what you think of linear games down in the comments, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day.